Hey everyone, it's Will. We're back with another edition of Creators Outlet right here on the Outright Geekery Network, as well as the age of radio. That's right. We're now on podcast. So you won't be able to see anything we're talking about, but you can always come over to the Outright Geekery or Joker Fan Pop Culture Talk YouTube channels at any time to see the video versions of any of the episodes. And before we jump into everything, I'm going to give a big shout out to our sponsor, SpinWiz Comics at spinwizcomics.com. They are a webcomic and indie comic discovery platform. It is completely free to download their app on both iOS and Android. And once you're logged into the app, you get credit for every page of comics you read towards their monthly, quarterly, and yearly giveaways. Check it out for yourself. Over 400 free comics for you to read right at the palm of your fingertips, and this is what it could look like on your smart device. And now, on with the program. We want to welcome back our friend Rich Davis, the writer and creator of Cult of Dracula.
Hey,
welcome back, Rich. How you doing?
Man, I am so much better than I deserve, man. Thank you for having me back, man. I'm excited to be here. And your podcast, it looks like you got an upgrade since the last time I was here.
Oh yeah, we got an upgrade. SpinWiz hooked us up, so we've got a better version of StreamYard. We get some bells and whistles going on, and
nice.
You know, so it looks better, and you know, I look a lot. The smaller the camera is on me, the better I look.
You know, I kind of feel the same way about myself. So yeah,
you know,
we're good there.
If anybody thinks I look too good, you should stop day drinking.
Hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Well, I know I'm Irish.
Right.
I'm drinking just coffee.
Uh-huh.
It's the black coffee. So you've got some big news to share.
Yeah, man. It has been one hell of a roller coaster since I was last on your show. We of course, Cult of Dracula #1 sold out nationwide, which was huge. We sold over. Thank you. Sold over 10,000 units of the first issue. And we did indeed sign our film development deal with Shure Pictures,
nice.
Which is incredible. And what's really awesome is that's not even my biggest news since the last time I sat down and talked to you. You know, most people, you know, comic creators would be like, holy crap, we just signed a film development deal. So that's the big news. But I've actually got some bigger news, which is really fantastic. Cult of Dracula has been acquired by Source Point Press. So we kind of upgraded our distribution since we spoke last, which is fantastic. And so we're going to be coming back out in the January issue of Previews with a brand new remastered edition of Cult of Dracula #1. And they're going to re-release #1 and #2 and then continue on with the series from there. So we're super excited about it. You know, we were very happy at Second Sight Studios. They did a lot for us, but I think we all agreed that they had taken the book as far as they could. And to their credit, they didn't want to hold me back or hold the book back, and so they were willing to engage in negotiations with Source Point, and so now we're taking the book over there. Oh yeah, hey, there's the new cover art.
This is just radical.
I love this cover art, man. It's by Gyula Nemeth. Gyula did the cover for issue #2 of Cult of Dracula, and so when we started talking to Source Point, you know, and they wanted to re-release #1, now it's going to be available through Diamond, of course. So you know, it'll get more market penetration, we hope. And but we wanted to do we were all in agreement that we didn't just want to basically reprint the same first issue and try to sell it again. So we kind of brainstormed, Henry Martinez, my artist, and Jacob and Travis over at SourcePoint. We kind of came up with this idea to do Cult of Dracula #1 remastered. So we spoke to Gula, had him create this fantastically radical new cover art for us. I just absolutely adore this cover. It might be my favorite cover in all of them that we've had done so far. So we got the brand new cover art. Henry is going back in and he's going to rework some of the art panels. So in this remastered edition, it's actually going to be remastered. You're going to get some new artwork, and we're actually adding some pages to the book. We're adding a section that we're calling Brahms case files. So this is going to be bonus content that's only available in the remastered editions, and it will be the backstories and origins of several of the main characters that we meet throughout the comic book story. So we're trying to give customers a reason. If you've already purchased a copy of Cult of Dracula, we're giving you a reason to come back and purchase it again. And if you haven't purchased one yet, we're giving you a little more of an incentive to come and pick it up this time.
And the cover alone should be the incentive, but bonus pages, redone art, case files in the back,
Yep.
Which brings me back to our little mini pre-show discussion of Hammer Horror.
Right.
The brand files at the end is very Kolchak of you.
Yeah. I am very heavily inspired by the Hammer horror films and grindhouse horror. I love that era of filmmaking, the 60s and the 70s, man. There was just something magical about it. I've had the privilege to be able to see a lot of it on VHS and DVD and Blu-ray. I wish I would have been around to see it live. That would have been amazing to go to the theaters and see this thing.
But yeah, neither of us are that old.
Right. Yeah. Those are way before us. But I still, I love watching them. They'll put them up on Shudder, or they'll put them up on like AMC or something like that around Halloween. So I probably watched 4 or 5 of them this Halloween season, just because I love it, man. These are some incredible, incredible films. So yeah, in the way that we're presenting this, if you're a fan of Hammer films, you're going to see a lot of inspirations in that. I mean, that even the cover by Gula, it looks like it absolutely could have been a movie poster for a Hammer film.
I think you should probably turn those into posters, like nice heavyweight posters for stores. I don't know, like yours. And
I think we've got that planned, because that is going to look fantastic hanging up on some comic book shop walls.
Oh yeah, because and this is the year for horror. I don't know why 2020 would be a year for horror, but
right.
it's been a year of horror. Started out one talking and reviewing issue 1 of Cult of Dracula for you on Outright Geekery, and that was soon followed up by a whole bunch of other horror stuff. The Plot from Vault Comics.
Love The Plot.
Which
Love
is
Vault. Fantastic.
And freaking Scout Comics has been on fire. And a lot of their horror stuff is like horror thriller, which it's either going to be monster or thriller. I don't have anything against the slasher stuff, but if it's just slashing for slashing's sake, I'm more than fine watching that for free on Vudu with commercials than I am in a book. I'd rather get like the psychological edge to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. And I really like what's going on in the indie comic world right now, and what's going on just generally with horror comics. I think I said this before. I think we're entering into a golden age of comic books. The superhero stuff is kind of kind of starting to take a little bit of a back seat to the genre books, you know, and we're luckily right when creators are starting to have these fires lit to create these genre stories like horror and sci-fi and fantasy, the audience's appetite is at an all-time high for it. So, you know, there's a perfect convergence of things, and I really, really believe that the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a golden age of comic creativity again, because the whole industry is having to rethink the way that it does things, and that necessity always leads to innovation, and innovation is always good for the consumer. So things are going to get better, things are going to get more entertaining and more creative. So yeah, I'm super excited about where comics are going right now.
Yeah, I think we just need a lot more stores nationwide that are open to bringing in indie titles and,
Absolutely.
you know, talking to their people. I know, sadly, my LCS that I've been going to for 35 years, except if it's me or like one of 5 other people, can't move anything that's not the top 3 being Marvel, DC, and Image.
Yep.
If it's not Marvel, DC, and Image, yeah, I don't want that. I just like the superhero stuff. I'm like, which is fine, but I mean, I read and reviewed like 3 different books today before we came on to do this.
Right.
So I'm just like, and I think the best book I read all day today, and I read like 5 or 6 books. I read like 3 out of my back stock and 3 current ones that came out like this past week. So I read Dynamite #2 from Dynamite.
Yep, I'm digging that.
Which is cool. It's not the greatest one I've read, but you know, any excuse to have Vampirella in a big crossover.
Right.
You know, it's somebody that doesn't normally write Vampirella, and she's just, you know, a little cog in the story with a whole bunch of other characters. You know, which is cool. And they brought like a whole bunch of odd characters into the mix from their stable. So I appreciated that. But the best thing I read all day today was Kick-Ass versus Hit Girl #1.
That was a solid book, man. And I didn't really expect it to be, you know, I've not been a real big fan of Kick-Ass for a while, you know, because I felt like it kind of lost some of its edge. But I think maybe we're getting a little bit of that back. This was an impressive first outing. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and you know, so I hope people keep picking that up.
Oh yeah, it was my only 5-star review in like 3 months. So
wow, high praise.
So you know, and it says a lot, because the last time I saw anything to do with Kick-Ass, he was still like a white teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's a she. Yeah. And not white.
Right. Yeah.
and apparently in a flat out murderer. So.
Yeah, it got violent, and it got wild. You know, so I'm impressed to see that, because you know, Kick-Ass, it's supposed to be kind of an edgy commentary on the standard superhero story. You know, it's not supposed to fit nice and neat where, you know, everything gets tied up with a little bow and death doesn't matter, and you know, reincarnation happens at the flip of a coin. You know, so yeah, I'm very excited to see Kick-Ass get back to those kind of edgy roots that it had.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got the film development deal. Mm-hmm. We've got the new distribution deal. Mm-hmm. We've got a new remastered book coming out.
Yep.
And since the last time, how many issues are we looking to do in this arc? Has it expanded?
We're still targeting 18 total issues, and just like a great Hammer film property, what it's going to be is going to be the first volume is called Cult of Dracula. It's 6 issues long, and then we're going to come back with the second 6-issue volume. It's going to be called Rise of Dracula, and then the The third 6-issue volume is going to be called Reign of Dracula. So fits right into that mold with the Hammer films, and of course, 6 issues in one volume, 6 issues in the next volume, 6 issues in the final volume. So 666, the perfect number of books for a comic series about the occult and vampires.
Oh, most definitely. I think I bought my first set of Hammer Horror on DVD, like cheap DVD at Suncoast. It was like on sale. It was like a double. Each disc was like double-sided, and there were like 5 discs in the set, so I got like 10 movies in there.
Yeah.
And I put it in, and the first one I put in, of course, the Dracula movie, and it blew my mind. I'm like, oh my God, Grand Moff Tarkin is a good guy now.
Right? Like, how did that happen? But
Peter Cushing is Van Helsing.
I love seeing Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. Those were just amazing movies, man. And I miss that style of filmmaking. I mean, it really wasn't big budget. It wasn't polished. It was almost like filming a live stage play. So
Dark Shadows.
Yeah, exactly. It was very, that it always, those Hammer films always give me that vibe because, like, you actually see the characters cross and exit the scenes, and like you would in a stage production. And nowadays the way filmmaking works is you would just cut away and just assume that they left or whatever. So yeah, man, it is definitely its own unique style of filmmaking, and I'd love to see it make a comeback. I would love to see the guys at Shure Pictures, as they're developing Cult of Dracula. I would love to see them develop it kind of in the Hammer style. That has always been my dream for the project. Maybe a little bit of Hammer, maybe a little bit of Tobe Hooper, Texas Chainsaw Massacre era. Throw some of that in, and we're golden.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It's just I still remember reading the first issue and the art because it was so different.
Yep.
But it was creepily airy and slightly psychopathic. So I enjoyed it very much. And
I can't wait till you get to read issue number 2, man. It's as we move into the second issue. Now, what's really cool, there are about 96 comic book stores across the country that ordered Cult of Dracula number 2 from Second Sight. So it's going to be out at the beginning of December for them. Source Point, which this is very awesome of them. When they acquired the rights, they agreed to honor all of the existing orders of the book. So if you're a comic book store owner out there and you did order Cult of Dracula number 2, you don't have to wait until February or March to get it. It's gonna arrive to you on time. So people are gonna get to check out Cult of Dracula number 2 before we go back with these remastered editions. So it's a really cool story. We go much deeper into the occult aspects of it, and we get to see more of the cult. Issue 1 was basically, it's a framing device. It introduces us to what's going on, and it reads very much like a true crime thriller, because it's really all about Agent Brom's investigation of the Cult of Dracula mass suicides. And so when we get into issue number 2, Mina finally gets her sit-down interview with the enigmatic cult leader, Robert Renfield, and it doesn't go the way she thinks it's going to go, and it doesn't go the way he thinks it's going to go either. So we really start to get some amazing supernatural elements, and then the further you go into the story, the faster and faster it spirals out of control.
So it's like a Friday night at college.
Right, exactly. The later it gets, the less things make sense, but somehow they're more fun.
So is issue 2 from Source Point going to be an expanded issue as well? Like
It
number
will
1?
be, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We're going to keep the Brahms case files going through each issue now. And Henry is going to fix some art, add some new pages and things like that to both issues 1 and 2. Because again, we wanted to give people a reason to buy both. If you've already purchased a copy from Second Sight at your local comic book shop, of number 1 or number 2, we want to give you a reason to come back and buy another one. So it's not just a cash grab. We're actually giving you more content that expands the world and expands your understanding. Henry and I were talking, and he and I both really, really enjoyed growing up. We enjoyed the complete guide to the Marvel Universe, and DC had one as well. I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, they did. DC's was Who's Who.
That's it.
And the other one was the Guide to the Marvel Universe. They were both like alphabetical.
Yeah.
Things, and they were very cool. They've been produced in the originals have been put like into soft and hardcover since, and then they go and do their updates, and I'm like, oh man, you ruined the whole thing. This book's no good now.
But yeah, Henry and I were both big fans of those, and so that's where we got the idea for Brahms Case Files. So it's going to be at the end of each issue. It's bonus content for people who want to know more about the characters. So the way we're approaching it, these files that you're going to see, they're like the cover dossiers that Agent Brahm has on the characters that we're meeting, because he's investigating them all for the FBI. It'll be kind of his notes, where they're from. It'll be just like one of the Who's Who or the complete guide to the Marvel Universe. They'll have a picture and their date of birth, their hometown, and all this pertinent information, and then all the things that an FBI agent would need to investigate these people. So it's going to be a really fun read, and it'll actually help enhance people's enjoyment of the book. It's not just a throwaway couple of pages that we're adding. So we're really excited about that. I'm glad that SourcePoint gave us the opportunity.
And in your opinion, as a collector and comic book shop owner,
mm-hmm.
where do you think this puts the original number 1 limiteds that blew out from Frankie's Comics in 45 minutes?
Yeah, from Scorpion Comics.
Scorpion, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Those books, I'll take my creator hat off and put my comic book store owner hat back on. Those Second Sight books, they're going to be very highly sought after. I mean, it's already on Key Collector, both issues. So what we might want to compare them to now, of course, I don't think they're going to see this level of success, but they could. Who knows? But when Eastman and Laird originally released TMNT, they kind of did it on their own self-publishing company, and then it was picked up. I believe it was Mirage that picked them up first, and they did basically the same thing. They reissued the first 4 issues, and of course now we know that those first 4 issues of TMNT, they're tens of thousands of dollars if you have a mint copy of number 1. So that's a good model, I think, because even though we sold 10,000 units, that's still an incredibly small print run compared to some of the books from Marvel or DC, or even some Image books. Some of them print 50, 60,000, maybe 100,000 copies. So these, especially with the announcement of the film under development, those books are going to be very highly collectible. So I would highly encourage anybody listening, if your local comic book shop ordered these, and if they have any left, I would scoop them up quickly, because they won't last too much longer. We saw the Georges Genty House of Secrets variant, which was just a B cover that we did. It hit $40 on eBay the day that we announced the film deal. So that's pretty incredible because it was just a 1 in 5 variant. So that was really super cool.
Yeah, it's a House of Secrets variant, so it's
right. Yeah,
it's
really awesome looking.
It's got historical significance, right? Right from the homage of the cover. So,
House of Secrets '92 is my favorite comic book of all time. Bernie Wrightson's my favorite comic book artist of all time. Sorry, Henry. But no, I love Bernie, and I love that House of Secrets cover. It has just fascinated me from the very first time I saw it. So I was super happy that Georges agreed to do the House of Secrets homage for me, and I'm over the moon happy that this book has been it's probably been the most popular cover that we've put out. The Scorpion Comics cover has been by far the most valuable. That book's been selling for over $100 on eBay at different times. But the House of Secrets, man, for it to hit 40, that was really cool. Chris Callahan did another variant for us on #1 that was beautiful. It did very, very well. So yeah, if you're a collector and that you're looking at the book from an investment perspective, picking up the original run from Second Sight would be probably a wise investment.
Oh yeah, all you have to do is say, yeah, it was a short print. And then everybody storms the doors of their closest shop and, you have any of these? Why? Oh, no reason.
I love that when they walk in, and I mean, every comic book shop owner who's worth his salt has a subscription to Key Collector now. And so I love when Key Collector pops something up. And of course, Key Collector's been very supportive of Cult of Dracula as well. Nick over there is fantastic. And he's been very supportive of our book. But I love when they'll post something, like under development for new Disney Plus series, and then all of a sudden people come in and they're looking for She-Hulk issues my favorite one is Darkhawk. Darkhawk has gotten stupidly hot in the past couple of weeks because they've been talking about a Disney Plus series.
Oh yeah, they announced it again. I'm like,
yeah,
and I saw it on the. I was scrolling through Facebook earlier today, and I saw it on the CBSI page, and people were making jokes about it. I go, "Oh, anybody got a couple of mil for my slightly overpriced Doc Hawk #1 issues in the short box?"
Yeah, and we've had at our shop we've had a lot of customers come in, and they're like, do you guys have old issues of Darkhawk? And I mean, nobody ever comes in asking for Darkhawk, and so and we'll ask them like, oh yeah, why are you looking for it? And they're like, oh no, yeah, I just want to agree, like, you didn't want to read Darkhawk, you saw it on Key Collector, and you're trying to spec on it, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, speculation's part of the game. It's part of the hobby. But I just love, for some reason, customers, they feel ashamed to be speculating on a book, and they're like, we're going to get mad at them because they're looking to buy a book that might go up in value. It's like, no, dude, here, buy it, invest, make money, then come back and buy more comics.
I find a lot of the problem with that is they storm the doors. They want to buy up all the copies of something that turned hot 30 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Run home, overpriced list them, make their money. And they're also the first ones, and I see this and I rip into people, usually gets me the Facebook jail banning, which I could give two craps about, for, trolling them when they're like, oh, this store was a bleep. I'm like, oh, what? Did they charge you fair market value for a book that turned hot when it hit the shelf? Well, that's not fair. I go, if it was cover price, how many cases of The Last Ronin were you going to try to buy off this guy?
Exactly. It's that as a comic book shop owner is the most frustrating thing about it, is you get these customers who, they don't regularly support your store. They only show up when there's a new hot issue, and they always try to buy as many copies as they can. They try to buy them so that your regular customers can't get them. and then they just disappear and you never see them again until the next hot book comes out. And they get so angry when you mark the price up to fair market value. And it's like, I always want to ask them if they would give me the opportunity. I was like, why do you think you're entitled to my profit? Because I'm the one who, you're coming at this right now for this book. Well, I'm here ordering these books week in and week out, tens of thousands of dollars, a week in comic books that I purchase. I have 10 employees that I have to pay. I have a building that I have to pay rent for, and utilities, and a POS system, and I have to put all this money into these things. And as a comic book store owner, I lose money on most of the books that we order. So when something like Last Ronin comes out, I think I'm entitled to make a profit because I deserve to eat too. And I want to keep my store open, and I want to keep my employees employed. And if we didn't have things like Last Ronin that, you could sell for 3, 4, 5, 6 times cover price, we wouldn't be able to order all of the indie books that we have. So, if you're a customer, you come in and you support the store all the time, and you're a subscriber, I will bend over backwards, move mountains to make sure that you get your copy of a hot book at cover price. But if you're one of those speculators who just blows in every time, a hot book gets posted on Key Collector and then you never show back up again, dude, I would rather you just go to another shop, because you're not going to be happy shopping with me.
Yeah. And it's not like they come in and just want to buy one, because it's a hot book. And then 9 out of 10 times, you'll knock a couple of bucks off the price for them at least.
Sure.
I know there's a store that I'm very friendly with the owner. I talk to him all the time online. He's like one of 3 owners. But before all this, I would go in there like once every couple of months, and I'd walk in the door and I'd drop like $500. Because I'd go in there because he'd put up a post with a couple of pictures, new wall books, and I take off. I'm like, I spotted, I'll spot like 1 or 2 things. I'm like, oh, I would love to have that Batman Adventures first appearance, but I don't make enough money all year to buy that. So what else you got? And I bought just books that, I had when I was a kid, and I'm like, like an old stupid issue of Amazing Spider-Man, the first and only appearance of the Blue Cyclone.
Right. Just because you loved it.
I had this. It was one of the first Spider-Man books I bought with my own money when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, that, and there were other books that you would see advertisements for in the book that you really wanted, and you could never find because you were at the mercy of a spinner rack.
Yep.
Or a magazine rack if you're, not as old as I am, like you. And, but it was just crazy. And, but like even my regular LCS, when a few years ago, when Batman #1 from New 52, bounded up to like, $100 and everybody wanted it.
Yep.
They didn't want a single issue after #1. They just wanted #1.
Right.
So it's like $100. He would, open up a copy and let people examine it at the counter. Show it to them. Goes, there's no marks on it. It came right from the distributor, and it came right into a bag and board in the shop. And I'm asking this much. And that's, it's $100, and at one point it was up to like $150.
Yeah.
So like it goes, it's $150 on eBay. Call it $99 and we're good.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then, yeah. Oh yeah. And then you always have the one person that would be like, couldn't you do a little better? Goes, I can, the price is now $200.
Yeah. We, we'll do a thing, like when a book like that comes out now, where if you what was the one? Oh, the first appearance of Punchline, the Batman
2.
92. So that was a super hot book when it came out. And so what we did was, you could, if you were a subscriber and you subscribed to Batman, you were guaranteed to get your copy cover price minus your discount. And we even allowed people the day of, if you wanted to come in and buy a copy of Batman 92, you could buy it at cover price. All you had to do was open up a subscription box and agree to subscribe to the next 12 issues of Batman. Because if you really want to just read this story, you're not going to go flip it on eBay for, 30, 40, 50 bucks, then yeah, sure. We want you to have this book. We don't want you to miss out on it. So all you got to do is subscribe. And there were people who would still complain about that, because they were the people that wanted to come in and buy 10 copies and go put them on eBay and make a bunch of money. And those people, unfortunately, I don't like to say that anybody is bad for the hobby, but they come close to being bad for the hobby because their only interest is exploiting it for their own profit, and they don't want to support anybody else that's in the industry. They don't want to let anybody else play the game, and that's not good for the long-term health of comic book collecting.
Yeah, that's I like to call them the bloodsuckers because and now it's like I have this argument all the time, probably because I'm old, and goes, well, you're not a collector, you're a reader. I go, no, actually, you can be both at the same time.
Yeah, you can. The smart ones are.
I know, there's a guy from who has his own kind of like, podcast video thing going on. Really, really nice guy. Buddy of mine, local artist friend of mine, was interviewed by him like a few years ago at a local con. Talk to him all the time, but I can tell he's like half my age because every week if there's a Power Rangers book that comes out,
yep,
he has the Power Rangers book in all the variant covers, and his thing now is buying all the store exclusives that look all pretty. I'm like, I want to see these guys, like even like Art Germ. I want to see Art Germ do an entire book, not just the cover and make like 80 grand.
Right.
I want to see you do the book with actual sequential art, not pinups through the whole book.
Oh yeah.
A static piece of art. Yeah, it looks pretty, but do more. And I mean, I love his work. I've met him before. He's a wicked nice guy, but I'm like, I'm old school. I think, if you do the cover of a book, you should have to do the interior too.
I'd like to see that. There's a lot of artists out there that I would love to see do interiors and do the sequential art. Art Germ's one of them. I'd love to read an entire book drawn by Peach Momoko. I'd love to see Shannon Mayer do an entire book, because not only am I fans of their art, but I also think they're talented enough that they could do the sequential art if they pushed themselves and challenged themselves to do it. But it's hard to argue when they're making, $80,000 to $100,000 just doing the cover. It's hard to get. It's hard to turn that down.
I'm like, I wouldn't turn it down either. Of course, they're not gonna. I would draw covers like Tom King.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Right. I got it.
But
he's slightly better than I am because I can't even draw crooked, terrible stick figures well. So I admire the hell out of any comic book artist out there because they are so much more talented than I am because I seriously, I can't draw a stick figure. One of these days I'm going to get a blank cover of Cult of Dracula, and I'm going to show people how terrible of an artist I am. And then that'll be the book that sells for like $1 million.
It's going to be a straight line with like two pointy fangs on either end.
Yeah. And the fangs will be crooked, of course.
Yeah. Why
I can't draw a straight line.
Why are the fangs crooked? Well, because there's no dentist in Transylvania.
Yeah, you know, vampires. He's not going to the dentist. Dentists aren't open at night.
You know, well, not the good ones, no.
Right. Well, there might be some back alley dentists out there that you might find in a Hammer horror film, you know.
Now, this is something as a comic shop retailer, this whole DC thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just me, or can they go suck a lemon?
You know, I have a very difficult time figuring out what DC's end game is, and you know, I thought it was very innovative when they kind of broke from Diamond and went out on their own with Lunar and UCS. You know, because Diamond needed some competition. You know, they had operated as the 800-pound gorilla in the comic book industry for 30 plus years. They didn't have any motivation to innovate or improve their service because there was nowhere else for people to go. So when DC struck out and broke away, you know, when these small publishers do it, you know, they can only do so much. But when DC pulls 30% of Diamond's business away, you know, overnight like that, you know, that forces, or it should force, Diamond to perk up and, you know, start innovating, which I think Diamond's actually doing that now because we're seeing a lot more indie small press books featured more prominently in previews. So I think that's ultimately, in that aspect, what DC is doing is going to be good for the industry. But I am also a fan of them breaking from the shared continuity. And I know that's probably going to, you know, make people hate me right there because I know that's not popular among hardcore comic book readers. But I think that your storytelling is extremely limited by an obsession with continuity sometimes. You know, because if you're writing a story today, something that they wrote in 1964 might not be relevant to, and it should. I don't believe that it should hinder your ability to tell a story. And so, in that regard, I like where DC's going, where they broke from Diamond, created some competition in the industry. And then they're also breaking from this just religious obsession with continuity. You know, I think whatever you need to do to just tell good stories, because that's ultimately what people want. And, you know, my favorite, when I look at like Batman, you know, I don't care if I read Batman, you know, 104 before I read Batman 55. What I'm looking for is, I like a story like Hush, or The Long Halloween, or Killing Joke. You know, I want that story. And I don't care if it really affected the next story that came along. This was just a really damn good story. Like Killing Joke, one of my all-time favorite Batman stories, and it has absolutely nothing to do with any other Batman continuity. So
just like The Cult, which I'm surprised you didn't mention, but
fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that one gets overlooked a little bit. So yeah, that's a good call there. But then some of the other things DC is doing, like you know, the way it's treating some of you know, some of its longtime creators and executives, that troubles me a little bit. Well, a lot of it really. And then there's part of me that worries that, you know, DC and Marvel to a degree as well, now that they're owned by big mega corporations, that they're getting away from wanting to tell great stories, and they're just wanting to develop new television intellectual properties, because that's where the money's at. And I see, you know, a lot of small press publishers are starting to do that too. You know, that they're writing they're not writing to tell a good story. They're writing to get a good TV show or get a TV show option, because that's unfortunately where the money is. You know, comic books, you know, there's not a lot of money in this industry for creators or publishers or anybody. the big money comes and when I say big money, I mean money that, will sustain you for a year to be able to eat and pay your rent. It comes from the television and the other properties, and the comic books are kind of just the seeds for those intellectual properties. So, there's a lot that creates a lot of opportunity for indie publishers and indie creators, but it also creates a lot of instability in the industry. So I think DC needs to own up to its responsibility to the industry as a whole and kind of do some things to give comic book store owners and readers some assurances that, because the biggest fear that I hear a lot is that people are afraid DC is going to stop making comics, that all they're going to do is just focus on television shows and animated movies and things like that. And that really shakes the hobby to the core when when one of your major pillars of the industry, when they're being vague and not really communicating. So I wish, if DC is not going to listen to a word I say, they don't even know I exist. But if I could counsel them, or if they were to hear this, I would say, stabilize your customers, contribute to making the hobby more stable and more sustainable long term, rather than just focusing on, popping a quick buck for yourself. Don't be a bloodsucker,
Well, we had two different DC fandoms. Of course, the first one was just their Megapolis, San Diego Comic-Con, multimedia panel for, movies and TV.
Right.
And, Jim Lee took 5 minutes out of his day to critique, one dude's portfolio, and then he was done. And he co-hosted a couple other things. And then they did a second one later. And I was so upset at the first one. I'm like, you were still a comic book company, right? And there was nothing to do with comic books. And I mean, the only thing that excited me in that first long stint of things was one, seeing Linda Carter for all 30 seconds. And the second was the new Arkham game where Batman's supposed to be dead, and you can have 4-player co-op on the screen at the same time, where you get to play the new version of Batgirl, which I'm not crazy about, like the goofy teenage costume.
Sure.
But you also get Red Hood, Red Robin,
Nightwing,
and Nightwing. Yeah. So you got those 4 characters to choose from, to play, and it's against the Court of Owls, and Batman's dead. I'm like, and right off the top of my head, I go, Batman's not dead. They turned him into a Talon, and you're gonna have to fight him at the end of the game. I haven't even seen it. It's not even released. I already know. It's like you've got a multi-billion-dollar video game conglomerate going on with all the Dark Knight stuff, and now you're going to kill him to have a sidekick video game? I don't think so.
It's almost like you've read a comic book before.
Yeah, maybe.
And now this, when I say this, probably 75% of your audience is going to hate me and maybe turn off your podcast. So I apologize for this, but I wish that DC really would kill Batman. I wish they would kill Bruce Wayne, bury him in a vault at the center of the earth from whence there is no return. Because I think that they're, just like sometimes their obsession with continuity, their obsession with fan service, keeping Bruce Wayne alive, is a detriment to their ability to tell great stories. Because how amazing would it be if we were talking about now the legacy of Bruce Wayne passing the torch down to Dick Grayson, who then now Dick Grayson's getting old, and is now passing the torch down to Damian Wayne. You really have that sense of legacy, that sense of gravitas, this effort, which is one reason I love Invincible so much. I think Invincible is one of the best superhero comics ever written, because you get that sense of legacy, because it is about a father passing on the torch, passing legacy on to the son. So I'd love to see that happen, in the DC universe and the Marvel universe too. I would love to see a time return when the death of a character wasn't greeted with an eye roll. Like, oh yeah, he's dead. He'll be back in 3 issues, and then he's actually back in 3 issues. But I think I would love to see a universe where you don't have an extra man, where if you die, you're dead. So if a writer decides that he's going to kill a character or she's going to kill a character, it really means something. I would love to have that feeling I get when I read, A Song of Ice and Fire, because you're almost terrified to turn a page because you don't know who's going to die. And, Martin will just, he'll pop a character, like nobody's business. And so I invest in those stories a little bit more, but I think that's also another reason why I am such a fan of indie small press books, because, in this, in our segment of the comics creating community, death does matter. And we do have legacy. And if we kill a character off, we're not going to bring him back in 2 issues, at the drop of a hat. It means something. So I think you get more mature stories from, and not mature as in adult, like pornographic. Although there's a lot of that out there too, which is great if that's what you're into. But the stories get more complex, they get more interesting, and they get more grown up, and I think they target more of a grown up audience. And I'm really excited at the opportunities that are being created for indie publishers and indie creators by the fact that Marvel and DC are kind of becoming these massive media companies rather than comic book companies. It really sucks, to be a fan of Spider-Man or a fan of the X-Men or a fan of Batman, or Superman, as I am, to see them kind of, falling away from the cutting edge storytelling that they've had for so long. But as they wane, it gives a opportunity for new voices and new characters and new properties to step into that void, because people aren't going to stop reading comic books. If Marvel and DC went out of business tomorrow, people are still going to read comic books. Some people are. The industry would take a huge hit. It wouldn't be as popular as it is right now with the non-core fans, but people are still going to read comics. People have been reading comics for 100 years or more, and that's not going to go away overnight, but the industry is going to change.
Yeah, I think DC is leaning towards, they kind of want to go all digital. One, because, they don't want to pay anybody.
Right.
They got rid of Bob Harris and all these other people, and then they just promoted the girl to Bob Harris's CEO publisher seat the other day, and and I responded on their feed. I'm like, great, okay, now tell me why. What has she done that I have never heard her name in comics? But what has she done that, besides being a woman, because DC is completely woke, besides being a woman, what has she done? What has she done in the business to, get that editor-in-chief gig?
Yeah. I don't really know enough about that side of things to really make any kind of intelligent comment there. I think it's good that the industry is diversifying, because comics readership is diversifying. As a retailer, I can tell you that women are the fastest growing segment of the comic book industry. We have more women coming in. They don't tend, now broad strokes, of course, they don't tend to consume comics in the traditional way. They don't always show up to buy their weekly pulls, but they devour graphic novels and trade paperbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can't get enough of those comics in that format, and they do. Women do tend to consume digital a little bit more, but still, I think a lot of them still have that love of feeling paper in their hands. So I am excited that comic books are diversifying because we need a bigger tent, especially now when things are so uncertain. We don't need to be gatekeepers. We don't need to be keeping people out. We need to welcome more people in.
Oh yeah, definitely. And
because otherwise, that the only thing that would kill the comic book industry is if there were no more people reading comics. But yeah, there's a lot of change and a lot of tumult going on in the industry right now, and some companies and some creators are gonna survive it, and some are just gonna, mosey off into the twilight somewhere. And but we just got to keep going and keep creating and telling awesome stories, and reaching as many people as we can.
Oh yeah, well, graphic novels / trade paperbacks are like 65% of the market. They have been for a long time because people would rather buy a complete story arc,
mm-hmm.
or at least part of a story arc that's like big enough to contain them for a few hours than buy 2 or 3 floppies,
mm-hmm.
and then have to wait around for more. They'd rather buy it in the and one of the series that I've been reading for years, X-Men, has turned me into a trade waiter.
Yeah.
Because, dear Marvel, stop making every series a mini series and rebooting.
Yeah. That's the reboots are very frustrating. It's gotten to the point where it's absurd. I think X-Men has rebooted 4 times in the last 5 years, maybe.
I was gonna say 6 months, but
yeah, that would be a little hyperbole. But I understand the sentiment. But because it was Uncanny went away, and then it was Astonishing. And then that went to Blue and Gold, and then Red, and then it went back to Uncanny, and then Uncanny has rebooted twice now, if you include House Powers of X, which I love. House of Powers, that was a great story. But
yeah, it was those 2 separate Hickman storylines. Yeah. So rebooted again with these 2 miniseries, Powers of X and blah blah blah. And it went from that to a 22-part crossover of them just having sword fights.
Yeah.
But now there are like 28 different mutant books again.
Yeah. Marvel can't get enough of its mutants, man.
I believe this is a Disney thing, because Disney sees like a grain of sand that sold yesterday for like 10 cents.
Right.
They're going to buy 50-pound bags of sand and put it in all their stores.
Yep. Yep.
So Disney's plan for years has been, if something sells, saturate the market until they don't want it, and then we'll move on to the next thing.
Right.
And that's what they're doing. So
mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, the X-Men are popular again. Okay, how many different books can we make? Ooh, a 22-part crossover, you say. Everybody has to buy all the books. I love it. Yeah, yep. I'll just take the trade when it comes out. Thank you.
Yep. And that's another amazing opportunity for independent and small press creators to step in, because there are people who they have event fatigue, and they just can't bear, that you put such an emotional investment into these massive events, and then when you're finished, you're spent and you're exhausted, and you just don't have any more emotion to spare for these characters. But now they're starting up their next big event, and so people drop off. And indie creators, we're right there. We're like, hey, we've got a nice contained 6-issue story. If you dig it, we're going to come back with another 6-issue story. It's not an event. It's not a crossover. You don't have to buy 50 books. You just got to buy 6 of the first one, 6 of the second one, 6 of the last one. I'm going to tell my entire story in Cult of Dracula in fewer issues than Hickman is his X of Swords right now. So, I think Cult of Dracula, pound for pound, is a better value. I might be a little biased in saying that, but, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for indie creators to step in and reach people when they've been exhausted by the event fatigue. Where they're dropping the ball, we need to be right there to pick it up and run it in.
And just like I hate to beat the dead DC horse, but being, I was a DC kid since '74, and they've pissed me off to the point that first of the year I quit. And it doesn't help that they're pushing some stores out that can't afford to blow $500 a month on DC titles that they may or may not be able to sell. And the fact that they're starting it with the 2-month-long what if stories.
Yeah.
And then trying to blow them up into something spectacular, like the new futuristic version of Wonder Woman is a Brazilian woman that from the Amazon that first appeared in Wonder Woman Annual 4 for like a few panels. And, so that's like, that's the huge DC spec book of the week. And all the others are either versions we've seen before or new versions and new art. And there's probably going to be 52 different ones. And
DC loves that number, 52.
I know. I enjoyed the 52 series when it was counting down and then counting back up.
That was a great innovative series. I mean, it was really, really cool. I don't think I had ever read anything quite like that, and it had me hooked. Reading, and I really, really enjoyed that series. I think they might want to. They maybe have gone back to that a few too many times. But there's still people out there that are reading it. There are, believe it or not, there are people coming into the hobby for the first time with these books. Whereas it might be pushing, someone like, you or like me who's been in this hobby for a long time, and maybe we're losing interest in it, but there are a lot of new people that are gaining interest, So, I would say to people who are getting kind of tired of the superhero stuff, I think it's natural. I see it as a comic book store owner. People generally, when they come in and they're just getting back into the hobby, they take their favorite superhero and they want everything that superhero appears in. They want everything, and they overwhelm themselves. And then after about 3, 4, 5 months, they start to figure out that every superhero comic is the same 13 stories shaken up into a pot and retold with new costumes. And so they're like, I kind of want something different. I want something a little more complex. And so that's when I start to steer them towards, the Source Point Press books and the Image books and the Scout comics and the Aftershock and the Vault and all of these amazing genre books that are out there. That right there is probably the biggest reason why we have such strong customer retention at my store. We keep people's interest because we don't try to force them to consume something they don't really want. When they start to get tired of something, we move them to something better or something they're going to enjoy. And that doesn't mean they can't come back and read Batman 6 months later, but maybe they just need a break. Maybe they just want to move on and read something different for a while. So most of our job, when I'm wearing the retailer hat, is really just connecting customers with the books that they want to read. And thankfully, we have that amazing opportunity. There are literally hundreds of small press books that come out and hit the shelves every single Wednesday. So, when you come to my store, If you're bored with superheroes, don't worry about it, man. I have got not only one book for you to read, I've got 20 more for you to choose from. To help keep your interest. And I wish more stores would do that. I think some stores get lazy and they get complacent in the way they've done things for 30 years. Well, it ain't 30 years ago anymore, man. 1985 is gone and it ain't coming back. You've got to meet people where they are. And you've got to have genre books and you've got to have indie books. And you've got to have diverse titles. It's just where the hobby is now. And, it's not going to circle back and not going to go back to the 80s. The 80s are gone. They're fun. They're nostalgic. I love Stranger Things, but they're not coming back, man. And
you're trying to make me cry.
Maybe a little.
Son of a.
But there's always, when one thing goes away, there's always opportunity for something else, and that's where we are right now. Maybe the big thing of the 80s that is coming back. The 80s were an awesome time for small press indie titles. I mean, there were 50, 60, small press publishers. Maybe they only put out one book or two books and then they just disappeared into the ether, never to be heard from again. But at least they did it. At least they got those really cool books out there. And we're getting back to that. We're seeing a lot of people pop up out of nowhere and put out like, I've got a really awesome story to tell. There's no reason why I can't get it to market and publish it. And so they are, and that's a really cool thing. Comics are scary right now, but comics are also very, very exciting right now.
I think the indie market is bigger than it ever was, even at the height in the 80s and 90s.
Absolutely.
And because it's a totally different time. At points, I'm overwhelmed just for the fact that there's, at any given time, there's, like 5,000 comic book Kickstarters going on.
Yes.
And I would really like to see somebody step up to all these indie people on Kickstarter and Indiegogo and have like a separate distribution so they could do some kind of distribution deal where all these people would ship their stuff to them and then they would ship it out and they would make it available to stores. So stores that do really well with indie stuff like your store, the Collective down in Florida, Jen King's store in Texas.
Yeah.
Cadets. And
love Jen, man. She's fantastic.
And yeah, I got suckered into the comic book shopping network. So,
dude, CBSN is awesome. They've got a lot of cool shows. Jen is, she had her finger on the pulse of where the industry was going to go during COVID, and she moved quickly and efficiently before anybody else. And I mean, she really set the tone, and what they're doing at CBSN is fantastic. Everybody's trying to emulate what they're doing, and she's the type of comic book store owner, her and Jesse, man, they're the type of comic book shop owners that are going to carry comic book shops into the future. Now they may be dragging some people kicking and screaming, but they're still going to go because they don't want to go get other jobs, because as bad as this job can be sometimes, it's a whole lot better than the others that are out there.
Yeah. It's like a bad day at the comic shop is still better than a good day at your job.
Yeah, exactly. I can say that. Now, the other thing I will say that a terrible day writing comics is better than an average day at the comic book store. I can say that with full faith and confidence there.
Yeah, because after you finish working for 6 hours and all you want to do is take a bite of your sandwich, that's when everybody comes in with questions.
Right.
So then you don't eat for another 6 hours. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. At least now I can kind of become a hermit down in my office and lock the doors and nobody bothers me for a couple of hours. So that's fun.
Well, I knew Jesse from a couple of years ago. We were both guests on another podcast one time, mm-hmm. And friended him, kept in touch. Wasn't too keen on a lot of stuff he was saying because he seemed to be like, this is good, and then this is bad, and then it would go,
Right.
60 because he was they were working through stuff, and then the whole CBSN thing came up, and I'm like, and of course, because of the webpage and everything, I get all the PR from Scout and all these other places. Mm-hmm. Not Aftershock. Apparently, we're too small for Aftershock, but that's okay.
Oh, you know what? I know Joe. I'll put a word in for you and say, hey, you need to pay attention to Outright Geekery, man. They've got some great stuff over there.
Oh, that'd be very cool. But when the PR came in from Scout that they had done the deal with CBSN, so every new Scout trade and every new Scout #1 was going to get an exclusive CBSN cover.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't like, not ridiculously priced, like, $10 for, an exclusive variant. And it also comes down to, this is an exclusive store variant. Mm-hmm. Think of this as, $10 or $15 here, but at another store exclusive would cost you $40.
Oh yeah.
So they've got all their variants, and I think Jesse's up to like 10,000 store variants or something.
Holy good God!
Not that many. I think
that's a lot.
I think he's up like around the 400 mark.
Yeah.
The most recent one, which I'm sure is sold out. Pre-order sold out, was the the big book that came that's hitting the punchline #1 where everybody has a variant.
Yeah.
So they got their exclusive variant from DC, and was happy that they said yes, and he was happier more that everybody bought out all the pre-orders, and
right.
Because like,
I love the store exclusive variants now, because for a while it was only Marvel and DC that were doing these, and the order thresholds were so high that the average small store really couldn't afford to do them. But very wisely, a lot of these independent companies have started doing that, and they've realized that and we did it with Cult of Dracula #1. We had several store exclusives, because we could talk to them and like, hey, do 1,000 units or do 250 units if you want, and we'll hook you up with a really awesome artist. We got Tiffany Groves, and we got Sanford Green, and we got David Sanchez and William Russell. Maybe they're not household names, yesterday, but tomorrow they probably are going to be. Because Tiffany and David, man, William, they're doing great cover art. And everybody's always looking for the next best thing or the next new thing. But yeah, indie comics are a great way to let a store kind of get in on the game a little bit, because you can't afford to do a DC exclusive. I mean, because who can afford to order 5,000 copies of one book, if you're just a small retailer somewhere in Central Florida, or
it's like a minimum $10,000 signing bonus to DC.
Yeah.
On top of the cost of the books.
Yeah, it's crazy expensive. But with Cult of Dracula, we're going to be doing this with SourcePoint. We're going to allow 10 retailers. We're limiting it because we don't want to oversaturate. We're going to allow 10 retailers to do store exclusive variants of the Cult of Dracula remastered edition, and then every issue after that. So what we're doing is we're putting together a list of artists, and 10 artists on there, and we'll go to the retailers, and it's first come first serve. So if you want Peach Momoko, you better get on it quick. If you want Shannon Mayer, you better get on it quick. If you want Clayton Crane, you better get on it quick, because we're only going to do one of those, and they're limited to 10. It's first come first serve. So I think it's really exciting. It's a really cool opportunity for for these stores to get really excited about doing Cult of Dracula and carrying it in their stores. And I think the indie publishers that are doing that, they're going to be ahead of the game, because that's where the game's going.
Oh yeah, most definitely. The I see more and more people, like even like friends of mine that, you know, I didn't even know they were still reading comics, and other friends that are like a couple years older than me. One who has a comic and toy collection that we would both drool over. He actually gave me a lobster bid because I was drooling one day. But
wow.
Yeah, you know, when somebody opens up a short box, well, a CGC graded short box, and that short box is full of nothing but Luke Cage Hero for Hire #1.
Wow.
All graded, and the lowest grade is like a 7.0.
Wow. That's a collection worth drooling over.
You know, and he's got like action figures and what's that expensive, really good toy company?
Oh, Sideshow?
That's the one. It burns my tongue to say that because I can't afford to, like, you know, own a box, an empty box from them. So,
right.
He's got Sideshow statues, a couple of figures. He's got the really nice Sideshow Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer Galactus thing.
Oh yes,
I'm like, oh.
I love Sideshow. Man, their figures are just unreal. The detail on those is incredible.
Oh yeah, they do great stuff. But I mean, there's so much out there, and like even those friends, they're like, you know, branching off. You know, they still get like their few books here or there, or like if a cover grabs their eye, like a buddy of mine bought a cover today that came out from Image today that was just gorgeous. It had a beautiful redhead on it, covered in tattoos. He's like,
the Marked.
Yeah, the Marked. So
yep, that was a fantastic cover.
I go, how was the book? He goes, oh, this was strictly a cover purchase. He goes,
tell anyone to read the book, man. The Marked is a really cool book where tattoos give people superpowers. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome.
Oh man, that would be awesome.
Yeah, right.
Maybe one of my tattoos will give me my legs back again. Now then I actually have to go to work and do a real job. Screw that.
Yeah, right.
But you know, this has been great talking to you and great news.
Yeah, man, it's always good to talk to you, man. I always enjoy it.
A multimedia deal for the series. New cover. Let's throw that cover up there again.
Yeah, show that beautiful bean footage.
The dog ate the beans. How do you know? Woo!
I do. I love this cover, man. I can't say it enough. Eula just killed it, and you'll be able to see this cover in the January issue of Previews. I think it's going to do fantastically well, and cannot wait till more stores start to see the book and get it out there. And I want to hear from people who have read it. You can always hit me up on my Facebook. There's a Facebook page, Cult of Dracula. It's at Cult of Dracula Comic. We're also on Twitter and Instagram with the same handles. Like the page and send us a message. If you send a message to the page, it's going to be either me or Henry responding to you. So, if you care to get to know us, if that's something you want to do, we would love to get to know you. So, stay in contact with us, and enjoy the book.
So this is going to be in the January previews, which means it should be on store shelves early March.
That's correct. Yeah. So Cult of Dracula remastered from Source Point Press should hit shelves. I want to say it's the second Wednesday in March. I'd have to confirm that with Jacob, but yeah, so it'll be in the January issue of Previews and available in comic book stores nationwide. Of course, issues #1 and #2, just the standard editions, are already available in stores. We're in 96 stores in the U.S. and a couple in Canada and one in the U.K. So, we're international, which is kind of cool. I'm the international man of mystery.
is the worded logo been redesigned on this cover?
On this one, yes. Eula wanted to do something that paid homage to the Hammer films, and so totally was on board with him doing that. But yeah, this is a completely new trade dress as well. And we may actually, I'm very strongly considering going with this style for all of the 6 issues that come out from Source Point in the first volume, because I just love it and it totally fits the vibe. We're still going to have, we've got variant covers by Chris Callahan, Tiffany Groves, Henry Martinez, Georges Genti, Sanford Green, and some others, Alan Qua. Yeah.
Alan is phenomenal.
Oh, I can't wait. I wish I wanted to actually show you his variant cover for Cult of Dracula #2. It's the Scorpion comics. But Sean, he's a little stingy and won't let me do that because he hasn't gone live with it on their store. But I think it's going to go up for order at the Scorpion Comics website later this week. Issue #1 sold out in 45 minutes. It was stunningly gorgeous. I can tell you that the cover that Alan did for issue #2 is even more fantastically beautiful. And I'm hoping that we get to sell it out in like 30 minutes this time. So, it was 47 minutes last time. So we want to beat that number. But yeah, if you have
great. So now I have to have a window open to Scorpion Comics, waiting for that clock to tick down, and hope I don't.
Yep.
With my luck, I'll fall asleep for about 30 seconds and it'll be gone.
It'll be gone. Yeah. Sean knows what he's doing over there, man. He really knows how to sell those books, and I love working with him because his attention to detail is very similar to my attention to detail. The smallest little thing, if it's not right, he demands that you make it right. So when you buy an exclusive from Scorpion Comics, you're getting the absolute highest quality that you can possibly get. And as a creator, I could not ask for a better retailer to work with. He's really fantastic, a lot of great ideas, and he really runs a good business over there at Scorpion. So I highly recommend it.
I think I've got like 2 Scorpion exclusives, because I used to be an admin in a different in a big comic book group on Facebook. I'm back as a member now. Basically just to share all these shows out to everywhere.
Yeah.
And, talk to some friends in there. But when we were admins, they used to put like ad blocks at the top in their banner, and they would put like a company's logo in there, and they would, do daily promotions for them for something new coming out. But the one catch was all the admins and mods got a free copy of whatever. You have to ship it out to them, and we all get one.
Nice.
So, I got the princess, the Bespin Princess Leia.
Yes.
The hardly thin, the action figure cover.
Yep.
And I got another one, and we did one for 2. We did one for one company and one for another company. And it was both issue 1 of Phoenix Resurrection. One was just, cool looking flames everywhere, like took up from border to border on the cover.
Yep.
Which was cool to look at, for like all of like 30 seconds. It's like, next.
Yeah, right.
And the other one was old school Phoenix. So it was Marble Girl, and they did a cover reminiscent of Steranko from the first couple of original Nick Fury books. The black and white swirlies everywhere, and all
I'm
that stuff.
I'm a huge Steranko fan. I love it.
And I'm like, I want that book just for that.
Yeah.
I want it because, I can't afford a really nice copy of like an early Nick Fury just to, just to have it. But I can have and keep this. So,
something that pays homage to him.
Yeah. So, that's pretty sweet for me. So I've got a couple things from Scorpio, and I've got friends that, have bought, 9 out of 10, exclusives, mainstream exclusives they've done. And
yeah, they do great stuff. And I'm pretty sure it's either later this week or early next week when he's dropping the new Alan Quah cover for Cult of Dracula. And those books, I think they'll be selling them for like I think $25 a piece when they go. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's somewhere around there. But immediately after the Cult of Dracula #1 Alan Quah variant went up, people were popping it up on eBay for well over $100. I would highly recommend tuning in over there. Also, there's a variant cover for #2 coming out by David Sanchez. It's an Izzy's Comics exclusive. I love this art. David is an artist that I've just recently been turned on to. I think the guy is fantastically talented. He's a humble artist, which I love to work with. And he made this almost photorealistic cover, and it's all pencils. It's beautiful. So you can get it now. It's only $10 at Izzy's Comics. If you can, pop over there and order that one, because Izzy's is a really cool company as well. David's a fantastic artist. Really want to support that. But yeah, we've got some great retailer exclusive covers still out there. I know Rick's Comic City still has their Henry Martinez variant of issue 1 up for sale on their website. Sailfish Comics has a Georges Genti cover. That's a play on Michelangelo's Pieta, which is one of my all-time favorite sculptures. So I am not an artist at all, but I am a lover of art and an admirer of art history. So I was really happy that Georges was able to do that cover for me, and knew what I was talking about when I'm referencing Pieta. Because so I've worked with some artists that are just like, all they're focused on is the new pop art styles. There's a lot of really cool stuff out there related to issue 1 and issue 2 coming up. So check them out.
All good stuff out there, and it should be pretty good.
Yeah, man, I'm excited, and I'll send you a PDF copy of Cult of Dracula #2 so you can read it. And I'm sure there'll be a shop up around you that has hard copies. If not, let me know, and I will send you one. This will be the last legally produced copy from Second Sight. So after this, after we fulfill those orders, the whole property moves over to Source Point Press, and we'll be re-releasing in the January issue of Previews with Cult of Dracula Remastered. All new cover art by Gyula Nemeth, reworked interior art by Henry Martinez, and some bonus content called Brahms Case Files at the end. It's going to be a really awesome value and a really good thing to read.
Cool. I will definitely look forward to it. I will make sure my shop orders those remastered copies.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them, it's like, well, if you got to order like at least 5, they're gonna sell. Just look at the cover, and if they don't, screw it, I'll buy them all.
Yeah. I don't think any shop out there is going to have a difficulty selling this book. I mean, I'm biased, but it's a really good story. The art is gorgeous. It suits the story well, and Henry's style. He has that kind of 70s vibe to it, which is what I wanted. Trevor Richardson's colors are stunning. Trevor is going to be a colorist that you're going to see a lot of work from him coming up. He's just so talented. And, the cover art alone will sell it. Plus, it's under development from Shure Pictures for a film project. So there's really no reason, if you're a comic book store owner, there's no reason not to order this. You're not going to get stuck with it. It's going to sell.
Yeah, and if there's 2 things in horror that sell nowadays, it's zombies and Dracula. Yep,
absolutely.
So definitely, Rich, thank you so much for hanging out and talking Cult of Dracula and everything in between with us. And we hope to see you again real soon with more news of the development and anything else that goes on. Please contact us so we can post up for you on the site.
I sure will, man. Thanks again for having me. It's always great to talk to you, and I can't wait to hear this episode and keep listening to the others.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Peace, love,